Welcome everyone to the next session, next keynote, the next normal week, which is quite intriguing, if I can say so, and which is Dead or Alive, Pharma, Schrodinger and Cat, Unleash the Next Normal. So maybe the question is, are we still alive or are we dead? So really pleased to welcome here today Rachael Mortimer, the VP from Pfizer, Head of International Client. Hi Rachael, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Dario. Great to be here.
Thank you, Rachael. Bartek Bednarz from Ipsen, the Executive Vice President of Ipsen. Hi, Bartek, same question to you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Fantastic to be here with you today.
And Florent Edouard from Grunenthal, of course, the Senior Vice President as well. Florent, same question for you.
Nice, very beautiful day here in the Netherlands. So really happy to be with you.
Great, perfect. So let's kick off this very today with the first question, which is where we are now in the journey of digital transformation, and did that journey start at your company before or with COVID? Let's start with you, Rachael.
Sure. I mean, great question. I think the key word there is journey. So we're on the journey. Certainly for us at Pfizer, we've been on the journey for a while, but I think there's been a big accelerator from our CEO and our Chief Digital Officer back in 2019, which really put us in a great place to build on that transformation. I think as per the previous speaker, really COVID accelerated that massively and really helped people understand the art of the possible. I think like most companies, we were able to move to almost 80% of our global workforce suddenly needing to work remotely. We started to use AI and machine learning to move through our ability to analyze over 34 million data points in our COVID vaccine work, and also think about things that we managed to do like remote site monitoring. We used to do 17% of that. We moved to 75% of that. So we were already on a track moving to that, but I think the key accelerant really was COVID, ability to build on what was already put in place, but also move that forward. And I think truly have an organization now that believes in what transformation can happen with that underpinning digital. So on the journey, I would say, accelerated by COVID, but well on the journey.
Thank you very much, Rachael. So still on the track, still on the journey. Bartek, since we are in London, let's move to the other neighborhood in London. So,
thank you. Rachael, very impressive figures. Obviously, critical role that your company played in this unusual and extraordinary situation. So, we're very grateful. I think same for Ipsen. I think we have been on the journey for quite some time. What obviously happened with COVID made it very real and very authentic. There was absolutely no choice for us to debate or consider this, is it an option or it is not? And obviously, so even pre-COVID, we would think about customer experience and how we would reach and enhance that customer experience with multiple different channels, with education that is either online or offline or whatever. But I think what happened at COVID is something extraordinary. And I just want to speak to what Chris just mentioned, which was, by the way, very impressive presentation, very nice opening, which I think it really makes us stop and reinvent ourselves and try to really understand what is the role that we need to play, who do we need to be over the next several months, maybe year, maybe 2 years, maybe more than this, as pharmaceuticals. And I think Chris spoke a lot about the unwritten contract, which I really like. But I think there is something in it as well when it comes to commercialization. When you try to really understand the experience on the context of the customer, and then you put your product context into it, therefore you're much more meaningful. So I'm happy to speak a little bit more about this as we move forward, but I'm very, very excited and super inspired with what we can do now for the society with digital and outside digital.
Thank you, Bartek. Florent, same question. I heard that Grunenthal started a journey long before, right?
Well, we have had regular rendezvous, updated you on our progress. I think it started all back in 2018, so before COVID. And we were lucky, I think, to have the right size to be able to agree on a technological stack, and first work on getting that right, all the system operating properly and being connected to each other, so that we got one single source of truth when it comes to the data and to the customer. So moving from there, as everyone, we went through COVID, and that was for us a chance to work on the human side of the transformation, because actually what takes time is to change the mind of people. What I must say is, I'm really happy. Last week, for instance, I announced that the people that I had hired that were global digital brand leads have now ceased to exist. I mean, the people doing those jobs have now migrated fully to marketing position. We wanted to have those digital branded people to create a point of catalysis in the organization so that everyone starts to think digital. But when you think about it, and I know it's a bit provocative, but I don't have a chief PowerPoint officer, because PowerPoint is what we all do. Why do I need a chief digital officer? And now the digital is in everyone's job description, it's across the organization. Doesn't mean everyone is fluent, everyone is running, but we're gonna get there, and that's what really matters, because that's what our customers are asking us today, especially after COVID. They have realized that their professional self is the same as their personal self, and they want to use digital media to get information.
Thank you, Florent. Next question, is the transformation process challenging our business purpose? And we all know that at the end of the day, the purpose is the patient, and in the chat, we see that we already discussed everything about the patient centricity in our industry, right? So let's start this time with you, Bartek.
So can I just make sure that I understood your question? Is transformation in conflict with our business objectives?
Exactly.
No. So thanks for this is provocative question. And no, absolutely not. I would say the following. So just building to what I said before, I'm sort of really big on trying to identify the purpose in what we do, right? And when you think digital, the first thing that comes to mind is customer experience. For you to understand what is their experience, you obviously have to understand their context. And what we now know for sure is their context is not pleasant as we speak. There is so many patients that got not diagnosed, that didn't get to the physician's office, that had treatment interruptions. They are not optimally treated. So we already have massive bolus of patients that suffered already. But what we also know, and that data is telling us this, that over the next 12 to 24, maybe even longer period of time, we will see that continuing simply because of the queuing and massive bottlenecks in the system, right? So now, when we step back and think, okay, so what does this mean to our commercialization? Do we continue to do the push with product claims or just medical education, etc.? Or do we try to actually partner with HCPs, hospitals, and even systems to help it, right? So when you bring your purpose, which is the inspired objective, and then you start thinking about application of digital tools and methods such as big data or blockchain electronic records, trying to really help the systems recover from that situation. I think Chris mentioned to us a minute ago that a lot of people struggle, whether these are governments, hospitals, or payers, on how to come out from that situation. So is there, for me, when I look at pandemic, it's been obviously a massive experience for the whole humanity, but it could be a wake-up call. And for us to think in an inspired way how we apply digital tools in partnering and getting this over the line. And so that brings us back to partnering, that brings us back to being relevant, and enhancing that experience that the systems are crying for. I mean, there's just basically massive needs and crying for help. So, I just want to say we do have a chance. We operate as Ipsen in specialty care. So for us, obviously, we're on oncology, neuroscience, or a rare disease. That is a beautiful opportunity to actually step in, be meaningful, and deploy all the digital tools that we have to support that cause.
Thank you, Bartek. Florent, same question for you. I think that Bartek really challenged the overall purpose of our industry.
Yes, no, absolutely. But I think, I totally agree with Bartek. I think it was a wake-up call for a lot of people. It was, at the end of the day, it's not a question about the product. It's a question about the patient and the physician who is treating the patient and the nurse who is taking care of the patient. And what can we as an industry do to play a role in that ecosystem so that everyone is winning and not only the shareholder of the pharmaceutical company. And that changes fundamentally the way you approach your marketing and your go-to-market model, where I have never, looked so much at what the customer are actually telling us than in the last 6 months. And that's, our sales team, ironically, or the MSLs, we're doing that on a daily basis. But no one in headquarters would ever look at what they were saying or was interested to hear, because it was always biased information and. So now we are listening actively, engaging the dialogue on really what do you need and how can we give a better value proposition for the healthcare in general. So yes, ultimately, maybe the whole of pharma will pivot from we work to generate earning per share to we work to save lives. And that would be great.
Thank you, Florent. And Rachael.
It's a great question, Dario. And I think fundamentally, the transformation has got to underpin your purpose. So our purpose in Pfizer is breakthroughs that change patients' lives. So whatever you're doing in the transformation, if it's not underpinning that purpose, you've got to really think about it. Now, for me, there's 3 traps. One trap is technology is tangible. So people like and see and can feel and can touch and can implement and can celebrate. However, the CX that you've talked about, Bartek, really, really important. What experience you create? What about the processes that support that transformation? What about the people and their capability to be able to do that? So technology is tangible, can be a trap that people believe transformation is all about that. The second one I'd say is there is also a risk that we focus on volume versus value. People like to implement technology solutions. So you can have hundreds of applications, mobile apps, websites. Are they adding any value? Is anybody looking at it? Is there a content strategy that underpins it? Or are they just numbers, back to celebrating technology being tangible? And the third one is activity versus outcome. Again, similar topic. We like to be busy doing digital. It's shiny, it's exciting, but are we driving outcomes? Do we know what those outcomes are at the start? Do those outcomes, are they measurable? And do they underpin our purpose? So I think it doesn't work against our purpose, but we can be very busy delivering nothing. So those 3 traps for me are things to keep on.
Thank you very much, Rachael. And this leads us to the very next question. And based on your very meaningful and insightful words, I would like to say that many initiatives actually really fail because we are too busy and too focused on the technology instead of the people. So that's why my question would be, how does your organization, you as leader, prepare for those changes and the whole culture management? Let's start this time with you, Florent.
Well, so how did we prepare? I think the first thing, we ask experts. We ask people from outside to come and help us diagnose, understand where we are, what the customer wants, what the patient needs, and all that. Because you can't invent everything. It allowed us on the way to discover that many people talk about customer experience. Many people talk about patient centricity, but actually people who have really done it, you can count them on one hand in the big consultant companies and the various vendors that are going around. So finding the right partner is one key aspect in your transformation. Then there is engaging your people while managing, I would say, the C-suite. It's really important that you are able to talk the language of the people, making clear that they will need to change what they do and how they do it, because that's the way to go, but that it is not a threat to them, that it's an opportunity to become better, while managing the fact that, yes, of course, you're not going to become a non-profit organization, and yes, you can speak finance. What you will do will generate benefits at the end. And I think if you manage to do that nearly Jean-Claude split, then you can deliver, you can progress easily.
Thank you, Florent. Rachael?
very much linked to the conversation that we just had. And in terms of people's mindsets and giving them a reason to believe, it's got to be focused on outcomes, and those outcomes that really make a difference to patients' lives. Starting with the patient, what are we doing that's going to make a difference for those patients? What examples and what narratives do we have that can help drive that? And then make sure people are focused on what they're doing around delivering that outcome. It's a win-win. It's a win for the patients, it's a win for the company, it's a win for the people. So it's really winning their hearts and minds on the fact that this is a way of driving against our purpose. I think you can hear me say we're a very purpose-driven organization. I would also say that it's very much about focus. So how can we make sure that there is focus? We have a very well laid out overall purpose blueprint that underpins our purpose. That we do should be driving towards delivering against those blueprints that drive for the purpose. So very much to get that culture on board, to see the outcomes, to see the achievement, and really make that difference to patients' lives. And that's the reason to believe and why people are dedicated towards this transformation.
Thank you, Rachael. And Bartek.
Yeah, I would have to repeat a lot because it resonates so much. But those teams that work with me, they know that I'm not a big fan of the word multi-channel because it kind of means everything and nothing, right? It sort of suggests that there's some kind of activity that creates a lot of noise. And then so the way we prepared for that is just follow the method. Basically, spend your time with customers. We like to have everybody out days at Ipsen where we just say for the next few days, everybody talks externally, stakeholders, patients, appropriately, obviously in line with the guidelines, etc. But when you come back and you refresh and you reflect on the patient journey, the insights, what are the levers, where are the people, where are the bottlenecks, etc. And you start designing, with the tools that you have. And you stick true to it, to the purpose or to the objective or how to move the needle. So, the way we approach this is we are rather prioritizing. We're not running multiple different pilots at the same time. We're just not the size of the company to be able to do that. But we're defining like the several key projects that we believe is going to move the needle at the patient journey. So, sometimes it could be around, your product differentiation, but many times it's actually not around this. Many times it's around supporting patients. It's about unblocking diagnosis channels, etc. And that, if you're focused, you have the right KPIs, you're able to measure that, you then keep celebrating with your team, it's super rewarding. Right, and then there's no one to convince that you need this method or that method, or digital or not digital, because people feel connected with what the difference we're making.
Thank you very much. Extreme interesting conversation, and we are heading to the last question. Last but not least, where will the transformation process lead us? Or maybe we can add another question. This is, what are the great opportunities on which we sit? Is this current big data which we now have? Is this maybe possible customer experience, better patient centricity? What are those great opportunities in which you also, and of course your organization? Who would like to go first?
Well, I can maybe start. I mean, if you think about it, if the customer experience you create is good, the customer, in this case, the HCP, the GP, the specialist, the nurse, knows better how to manage the patient, can discover new therapeutic objectives, can discover new forms of treatment or new ways to handle, in our case, for instance, the pain of the patient, right? Ultimately, the patient will benefit from that because he will be better diagnosed, sometimes earlier diagnosed, and then better treated with the right treatment. I do think this is an absolute massive opportunity because all those steps can be achieved without being intrusive, making the life of the customer better, using the new technologies. Yes, I agree, omnichannel is really a buzzword, but in fact, the customers are consuming information across the channel they want. So the opportunity is absolutely massive to have, for very minimal investment at the end, except our brain time and our goodwill, a massive positive impact on the life of patients. So why would not we do that? That would be more my question, you know.
Exactly. So again, we speak about the human factor, not about the digital technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much for that. Rachael, Bartek, who would like to continue?
Yeah, just I think an article I read the other day, actually, in Harvard Business Review, there's a little quote in that I really liked. Sort of, digital is what we're going to be doing for the rest of our lives. And I thought it really resonates. You know, we're not going back. It's here to stay. You know, it's something that we're going to have to embrace. And I think if we think about it, I like to frame the way that we move forward with 3 key questions. The first one being, and you could frame it as opportunity, or what problem are we trying to solve? What's the opportunity we're trying to get into that's focused on the patient and the purpose? Secondly, what experience are we trying to create? It's really, really important. And then what outcome we're trying to achieve. So when I think about some of the opportunities, for one of our products in the US, we went from 1,000 being diagnosed to 27,000 being diagnosed by using AI and machine learning. That's the opportunity that's there to improve diagnosis, detection, treatment, and adherence. And I could go on with multiple examples of how we've applied that. And I think embracing that to underpin the outcomes for our patients is really where the transformation's taken us. I'd also say that we've got to make sure the transformation doesn't lead us, but we lead the transformation based on the purpose. And I think that, you know, transformation's a buzzword, digital transformation's a buzzword, but actually it's about those outcomes, those patients, those breakthroughs, and those purposes that really count. Transformation is just a vehicle to get there. We need to be in control of it and not let it control us.
Thank you, Rachael. And Bartek, you have the chance for the last words.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you, Rachael. I think every time I speak after Rachael, it's difficult for me to say something on top of that. But this time, maybe just, so obviously the health outcomes, right, or is something that ultimately we're all driving for. And I think there's so much opportunities in just using data that is widely available for us to inform decisions better, to detect the patients, to follow through, to understand what is happening with them. But there is maybe one thing that I would like to add as well, is that looking forward, I believe that systems will have to reinvent themselves as well. You know, just how efficient the healthcare systems are, in pretty much every country will be faced with massive challenges. So once again, if you look at the data and some of the capabilities that we have, we can actually help the systems become much more efficient, so that they can really make the biggest difference for their own societies, right? And then you can harness your capabilities, including the HEOR, real world evidence, analytics, big data, and obviously the tools, the digital tools, put everything together. So there's just, I think, plenty of opportunities, but I also agree with potential risks of us playing with toys, getting really busy with multiple different things, which oftentimes we later find out it has actually been an illusion, that we have created a website, ticked the box on the objectives, someone's objectives, and then we find 14,000 clicks, of which majority would be our own company. That, I think, we've learned with pain over the last 10, 15 years in various different companies. At this stage, I think it's all about authenticity. And, you know, there is a moment, there is a window of really being very meaningful right now, and connecting all the key stakeholders in the healthcare for the better purpose and for the better outcome.
Thank you, Bartek. So it seems that actually we are not dead. We are more than ever alive. We are maybe even like Benjamin Button, if you remember the great novel from Fitzgerald, and we are actually going from an older age to a younger age. We are very refreshed and with a lot of energy stepping into this whole transformation process. So thank you very much. It was really an amazing conversation, and hopefully see you in May in beautiful Dubrovnik. I really look after that finally. And until then, thank you very much and take very good care.
Great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.